Revelation 7:9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and all kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Call Halal, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers, the 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen that look like those heathen, and to the Yahawah that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this is a video I've been sitting on for a couple of days, wanting to get around to it. And it's called White Passing and Runaway Slave Ads. I'll repeat it. White Passing and Runaway Slave Ads. Okay, and if that's, let me just give you an even simpler form. What that means is somebody who's passing for white but is really not. All right. Now, it can't be about color, and we're constantly telling you that, because the Bible clearly explains very plainly and very clearly that one is the seed of their father. Whatever your father is, that is what you are. Point blank, period. Regardless of what your outward appearance looks like. So if your father is a so-called white male and he impregnates one of his slaves, all right, and the baby comes out chocolate like the mom, it's a chocolate-covered Edomite. And you have a lot of Israelites who have problems with this simple concept, because, if that person came out chocolate, they're still the seed of an Edomite, but they'll fit right in with the crowd of Negroes, so-called, and they'll be accepted by these BOIs, these black-only Israelites, which people like that, Jake like that, the Spirit of the Lord is not with them. All right? Because they don't want, number one, they're not acknowledging and paying attention to the scriptures. They'll run straight to the scriptures, like in Ezra, where it tells us we're not to mix and this and that and the other. And look, the Israelites have been going off almost since they came to be, and were constantly doing what they weren't supposed to do. All right. Now, yes, were we told not to mix and mingle with some of the heathen? Not all of them, but some of them. Yes, we were. And matter of fact, there was only really the Hamites that, particular groups of Hamites that was said about. But nevertheless, you can't take away the fact that if an Israelite man puts his seed in a heathen woman, that child is an Israelite regardless of what they look like. And this is 1 Kings 8:18. And it reads, And Yahawah said unto David, my father, whereas it was in thine heart to build a house unto my name, thou didst well that it was in thine heart. Nevertheless, thou shalt not build a house, but thy son that shall come forth out of thy loins, he shall build the house unto my name. All right. There's a video I did, maybe not quite a year ago, but going on a year ago, where a little Jake chick, Northern Kingdom, and I think it was a TikTok short, and she was talking about how a lady asked her where she came from. And she said, I don't think the lady asked like my answer. And she almost kind of looked like the girl on the screen now. And she said, she said, where did you come from? And I told her I came from my daddy's nuts. And then she said, and it probably was the left one because I don't act right. And then she gave out this little smirk laugh, and it was funny AF. But it was true. And she probably did come from the left one because she definitely wasn't acting right, little wicked ass. But the point being is that whatever your father is, that's what you are, regardless of your what you look like. Tia and Tamea, all right, with some very attractive, and they'll be very good concubines, you know, in the future time to come. But they're as brown as many, you know, they're light skinned, but they're as brown as many Israelites. Could mix and mingle with Israelites, but their father is a heathen. All right? So without any further ado, let's let her speak.
Advertisements are like a wrestling match between the perceived need to define race and saying a black slave, a Negro slave, and then the reality that just defied these strict definitions. They're looking for the runaway black slave, and they're described as having blue eyes, white skin, and blonde hair. They simultaneously support these existing racial ideologies of Negro and white or black and white, and also disrupted them. It's almost like a game of tug of war with human lives at stake.
What it is that Esau Edom.
It's the year 1730.
Esau Edom is just completely, totally, and full of shit. Just like they came up with the blood quantum rules when it comes to the Native Americans. All right. So they'll, you know, so to keep a slave, and then often they enslave their own children because they'll, like I gave you the scenario of the slave master sleeping with the slave girls, which they did all the time. Them, their sons, their uncles, their brothers, their slave overseers, they were doing it. And these children would come out and they would still put these babies right into slavery. And these babies were their seed, their people, their line, their bloodline. And they did it to them anyway if their skin was dark colored. Now, if they were you know, pale or if they were light skinned, you know, they got treated a little bit better. And that was done purposely to create division within amongst Jake. All right, because sometimes it happened the other way around. Because a lot of white women also got impregnated by black men, so called. All right. The reason why this hits so hard with me personally is because coming into this truth, I completely understood that when it was explained to me, when they broke it down, because my mother comes from a family just like she's talking about, where you had black people passing as white. All right. To the point where she's got family. We got, you know, my mom had so-called white-looking family members who were not white at all that could have completely immersed and drowned themselves in the white world, and the white people around them believe that they're white. As a matter of fact, as these generations that's gone by, they probably don't even know at this point. I would imagine anyone that came after me, because I was a small kid trying to figure all this out. When every time we would go see my mother's Aunt Pinky, and I always try to figure out who the hell is this white woman that we always going to see. All right. And it turns out that was my mother's aunt. All right. And Pinky came from a family just like I'm explaining. Just like she's talking about in a slave ad. A white passing slave, which causes certain confusion. But I guess when it comes to money, they want their money. Because according to them, if you got, you know, because when it's the other way around, they will make it work. When it came to the blood quantum. All right. Because they'll say if you got any Negro blood, you're not white no more. But if you had native blood, you still white. And the so-called natives and the Negroes are the same people, come from the same bloodline. So these people just breed and push nothing but confusion. All right. Forgers of lies, if you will. Matter of fact, let me read that real quick. They put together this stuff and try to say it's scientific, and it's just all lies. This is Job 13:4, and it reads, "But ye are forgers of lies." All right. Ye are all physicians of no value, builders of fraud, of fakery. This is what they do.
In the colony of South Carolina, and a man named Gideon Gibson has just arrived with his family, and they are the talk of the town. Everyone is gossiping about them, kind of trying to figure out what is going on. And the story is that Gibson is a free black man married to a white woman. Scandalous? Absolutely. But when the government looks into the matter, it declares that the Gibsons are, quote, not Negroes or slaves, but free people. How about that? This single family seemed to unravel a complex tapestry of racial identity that would later become a cornerstone of American society. You see, Gideon Gibson was...
And see, and here they go with a fucking commercial.
Have you heard of Executive Order 14067? Most people probably haven't, but it could completely upend...
Have you ever heard of shut down?
No regular free white. He was a walking paradox. He was a light-skinned black man with African ancestors, yet by 1768, an investigation declared that he had, quote, escaped the penalties of Negro law by producing, upon comparison, more red and white in his face.
So because he looked more white than even some of the white men were his accusers, who gave him this Negro status, they decided to accept him as one of their own. And anyone looking at this image of this man that we just saw, all right, would say that there is a white fella. All right? Which means he can now vote. He doesn't have to worry about getting lynched by the lynch mob. All right? He can do all kinds of things. So do you think that a person like that is going to cleave unto their black relatives? Or go back to living under fear and the oppression that so-called black people were facing during this time? All right, very few of them did. It wasn't a whole lot of them like my aunt's Aunt Pinky, and Pinky was her great aunt. So that means she was my great aunt twice removed. All right, or 3 times removed. All right. Yeah, Pinky was, and she had brothers and different uncles, and the family split. And some of them couldn't pass for white. Some of them could. All right? Yet they all had the same mother and father. You see what I'm talking about? Because if this man now his father is a so-called Negro, then he's an Israelite. If his father is a so-called white man, then he's an Edomite. As simple as that. And I say so-called because both those are created social constructs here in America, mainly. The whole white superiority and all the lies and the science that was built behind it came mainly out of America. And the Europeans joined right along with them. But it came mainly out of America. Remember, the term whiteness was born right here in America, in Virginia, in 1681. That's where it happened. And in 1682, 1683, the so-called Negro and the so-called Native American were considered the same people. And they looked a lot alike, even more so alike back then, before all the separation and racial, prejudice that they went through the separation. You got to remember, you had census enumerators that reclassified a lot of natives as Negro. So there's a good portion of Negroes walking around, so-called Negroes, so-called black people walking around America that are really Native Americans, who are really the Gadites and the Reubenites. I am of the tribe of Reuben. All right, so you had Gad, Reuben, and Issachar, so-called Mexicans, well, primarily the people that were in North America. All right? Canada was mostly Al Gad. All right? The Northern Kingdom came to the Americas. It is in the Bible and in other books. Got different Jewish encyclopedias and almanacs that also, confirm that message, that truth.
Producing, upon comparison, more red and white in his face than could be discovered in half of the descendants.
Also proving that the so-called white man is really red, just like the Bible describes him in Genesis, the 25th chapter, when it says the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And then because of his eating habits, he ate that red bloody meat, which they still do today. That's a characteristic of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, steak tartare. They like their blood still in their food, half cooked, you know, just heated a little bit. Rare, you know. That's one of their characteristics. It's like another characteristic. Anyone who has taxidermies all over their house, they like to hunt and kill for trophies, not even necessarily to feed and take care of themselves, because there's absolutely no reason to shoot a grizzly bear or a lion, all right, unless you were defending your life from it. And then if you're in the domain of a lion or a grizzly, why the F are you there? Why does it have to die? All right, you came into its domain. All right.
The House of the Assembly. So what's going on here? Basically, he made a comparison between how he looked and how a lot of these other Anglo-Saxon looked, and they said,
let's get it. Let's correct that. They call themselves the Anglo-Saxons. They are not the angelic sons of Isaac. All right. There's no such thing as a WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon man, unless he's Anglo-Saxon because his father was a so-called Negro. That would actually make him a white Anglo-Saxon people. All right? You know, just like all the evidence and the truth about the black, the swarthiness of the Iberian Peninsula. Of not only just Spain and Portugal, but of Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. All right? What's his name practically admits it all in a letter in 1751, Ben Franklin, when he talks about the swarthiness, you know, of the Germans, of the Russians, of the Italians, of the Swedes. They were swarthy, so-called black people. So let's correct that. There is no such thing is a white Anglo-Saxon person, unless their father was a so-called Negro. And they came out looking like, where is he? This fella here. All right? That's it. And that happened a lot, and that happens today. Still to this very day.
Melt this soft mineral in your mouth to rebuild your gums
pieces
and
of
teeth,
son
and
of
never
a...
need a dentist.
And they'll make these the thumbnails, too.
there was another one from the Virginia Gazette, September 17th, 1770, and it narrates ambiguity about how much control a slave has in manipulating their class and their race. And this is how the ad goes. Quote, "Run away from the subscriber near Fredericksburg, a light mulatto man," and in parentheses, "who may easily pass for a white man, named Jack, though very probably he may change his name to John Wilkson, about 5 feet 6 or 7 inches. What does this mean, saying that he may easily pass for white? You know, and there's this discourse too of changing names in order to pass. There are lots of these, and I started digging into these a little bit. Here's another one. This is from a 12-year-old who ran away from Columbus, Georgia's Tri-Weekly Enquirer, March 14th, 1857. It says, quote, "I will pay $25 for the apprehension of a small Negro boy named Walter." So saying Negro, so just, you know, I think that paints a certain picture of what you expect this person to look like. "Very bright mulatto, small features, gray eyes. The boy will no doubt endeavor to pass for a white boy." This is a categorical crisis here, because we have folks who are being considered
She uses very pleasant and politically correct language. You know what this is? These are a bunch of lying pieces of shit. All right, who play a game with words. You know, when it comes to that money. That's what it comes down to, and it proves that you can't categorize people by what they look like. That's what and that's what we're always trying to explain to you Negroes and Spigros out there, even you dumbass Edomites, you so-called white people. All right? You cannot determine a person by color. You really have to test their spirit. All right? Just because somebody walks up on a line when you're teaching on the highways and byways and they got an afro and brown skin does not mean that they are your people. All right? This is Tobit 13 and verse 1. The point is in 3, but I'm going to start in verse 1. And it reads, Then Tobit wrote a prayer of rejoicing and said, Blessed be the power that liveth forever, and blessed be his kingdom. For he doth scourge and have mercy. He leadeth down to hell and bringeth up again. Neither is there any that can avoid his hand. That also proves that there is no such thing as hell as the way they teach it in the church. You know, where is it say in the Bible when your hell doctrine that the Lord going to take you into hell and bring you up again? All right. Hell is a condition. All right. He brought us into hellish conditions by scattering us among the heathen. Right. Letting us be brought low, letting us look different. Well, some of us actually even look like the heathen. That's why when the Lord gathers us up, and like when I read in the very first scripture, and John couldn't recognize us. I'll go back to that. But verse 13, Tobit 13 and 3. Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he has scattered us among them. So he scattered us among the heathen. And there we're to confess his name. All right, which is showing our faith in him, especially since they've lied on his name. They've lied on his people and they've lied of his name on his name. All right, so that's a part of our punishment. All right, that we have to suffer. Those of us speaking the name being ridiculed for speaking the true name. There is no letter J in Hebrew. There was no letter J in the English language. All right. The letter J is newly created. It was created in the 1500s, about 1534, somewhere around that time. And it wasn't really used too often. In the King James Bible, that's why in the 1611 it's not there. It wasn't even used regularly in English until 1634, somewhere around that time. All right. But let's go back to Revelation. We get ready to wrap this up. You don't have it by now, you're not going to get it. You're just going to scoff and say dumb shit. This is Revelation 7 and 9. Actually, I'm going to start at 7 again and just read through. Read through to 14. All right. So Revelation 7 and 9, it says, And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And this is read right after the Lord gives you the list of the 144,000 of the tribes of Israel, which are all men, and which is the government, all right, of Israel. The rest of these people that we're reading about now are the scattered elect that are scattered among the heathen that look like the heathen. That's who these people are. And cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about at the throne and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worship power, saying, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our power forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these that arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? So he's being questioned as to who they are. Now, mind you, in his time, he knew what his people looked like. But now they've been scattered abroad for thousands of years. Thousands upon thousands of years, they've been scattered among the heathen. And they look like the heathen, which is why he answers, And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, These are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. White meaning pure. All right. So these are those Israelites that got scattered and went through that scattering, being made, we look different colors and different shades of brown, etc., etc. And now we're being brought back to the Lord. That's what it's talking about. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash, Wa Ababa, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom.